G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and I thought I'd make a bit of a Q&A video for this Variety Friday. The questions were asked on Twitter and Facebook, and so if you missed this round and you want to get in on the next round, make sure to add me or follow me on Twitter or Facebook. So let's get started. KO Soma asks, what is your favourite games? Dota 2. Good Luck Gabriel asks, Jazza, is it possible for someone to learn how to draw, or is it a talent you either got or you don't? A little from column A, a little from column B. It's quite uncommon for someone to become a professional or really high level artist if they lack either of those two. So you really need to be able to have some part of your brain that is artistic and can, process that sort of information. And on the other end of the spectrum, you also need to learn things, you need to train yourself, and you need to be able to have some technical expertise. Sophia Mayer asks, do you know any cheap way to do animations because I can't afford all this fancy Adobe stuff? Not off the top of my head because I use Adobe Flash, but if you want to find some free animation software, go to Google and type free animation software and you'll find something. Stephen Galano says, Jazza, who is your favourite artist and cartoonist? My biggest inspiration growing up was Christopher Hart. Then in my Newgrounds phase of learning and becoming part of that creative community, I was massively into Adam Phillips and James Farr. Then more recently, someone like Harry Partridge, who is an incredibly amazing animator. Otherwise, anything that visually impresses me or is cool. Leo Cortez asks, I used to draw a lot and it was a passion of mine. Once I graduated from high school over a year ago and got a job, I slowly lost my desire to draw. Any advice on how I can revive my passion for drawing and how I can start to get back into it? Thanks. I would recommend just going into it slowly and organically and just find things that you get passionate about naturally, and that will just revive the passion for drawing in general. So if it happens to be drawing pictures of characters from a certain computer game or TV show, or it happens to be copying certain pictures, whatever, if you really love it, do it, and you'll find you'll want to do more, and then you'll want to do more of different things as well. Freep Died asks, how popular do your videos have to be for you to become financially stable just by making videos? As far as I can tell, it's quite difficult to make a living just from video ad revenue alone. I can't do it. I do other things as well. So I have sponsorships and I do things like freelance animation. The other hidden part of that question is what your expenses are, because if you live in a very big house in a city, it's going to be a lot more expensive than living in a shack in the middle of nowhere. That aside, I think a median sort of income doing videos full time, I think 30,000 video views a day or around 1 million video views a month is roughly something that can get people to a living standard. Gabriel Jordan says, hi Jazza, what's your favourite topic or theme to draw? Medieval stuff or anything with swords in it. Kate TM asks, what is the correct pronunciation of Neanderthal? Now, I did just say Neanderthal to appease you for having spelt it that way, but at the end of the day, the fact is, it's actually pronounced Neanderthal, ladies and gentlemen, as is the original German, and is taught to the internet at large by Hank and John Green. It's a fact, it's science, get over it, learn it, and accept it. Crystal Chamberlain F asks, what's the most time you spend on a piece? Do you set yourself standard hours to follow? And finally, what's the longest amount of time you've ever spent on a piece? It depends on whether you're talking about art or animation. When it comes to art, the average amount of time it takes for me to create a speed painting is about 8 to 10 hours, longer if I want to do something really grandiose. When it comes to animation, it's much more variable, and it also depends on the amount of animation intensity. Working full time, I could generally finish a skit in about a week, but a full-blown story or animation that goes for about 10 minutes can take anywhere between 3 to 5 or more months. Ivelo Solov says, do you like Batman? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Nick Hood says, what audio software do you use to record, edit, and mix your songs? Are there more than one? I use Steinberg Cubase Studio 5 for anything I do related to audio. Jacob K says, hi Jazza, is YouTube your daily job and is it enough for you? Do you think that in the future you will just close your channel because you found a new better job? My YouTube channel is built up to the point that it's about half of my stable income and I get the other half from sponsorship and freelance work. As for if I find new or other work or a better opportunity, I actually think it would balance out fine, because at the end of the day, I do most of my video content for this channel in 1 or 2 days. Then the rest of my time is spent either doing freelance work or little animations on the side for my own benefit. Bertrue Stairder says, I hope asking an Audis related question here will be okay. Here I go. Do you think it will be possible for you to release a few screenshots in-game videos showing your progress in the making or scope of the game world? For those of you who don't know, Audis is an RPG that I'm working on and have been for several years with a group of people, and it's very big and it hasn't got a release date because it's taking a long time to make and it's very ambitious. So I kind of keep it under the radar and we are working on it part-time at the moment. In answer to your question, Bertrand, we're probably going to give it another few months before we're ready to show off more of the in-game content itself, because at the moment we're kind of working under the hood. But when we get stuck back into the content, you can rest assured there will be plenty of updates and live streams. Jacob Lilly asks, do you ever get the urge to work on something old like Larry or the Paladin? Not really, to be honest. I think once you've outgrown something, you really have outgrown it. And for those of you who are wondering whether I'm talking about Larry or not, unfortunately I sort of am. To explain where I'm at, I put an update on Jazza Studios to explain why I can no longer work on the Larry series. So rather than beat on about it here, you can go check that out if you're actually interested in learning about why I won't be doing Larry anymore. Michael Elliott says, I can't decide what I want to study, graphic design or web design. Do you have any tips on which direction to head? That's a really good question. In the end, it depends on what you really know you want to do. If you know you want to be a web designer, study web design. But at the end of the day, graphic design is versatile and can be applied to web design. So if you feel like you might be leaving web design sometime in the future, I think graphic design or even something like the fine arts is something that will be much more useful for versatility in the long run. Renee Weinreich says, did you ever draw erotic porn comics? No. Martin Mathis says, have you ever come across a project you were doing for a customer that you felt lacked creative insight? And if so, how'd you get past it? From a freelance perspective, if a client is paying well, there is no such thing as a project that lacks creative insight. If you're asked to work on a project that you feel does lack creative insight and they're really not paying very well, I would just frankly not do it. And even if it's kind of at the middle line where it's paying okay and you know you won't be able to really put yourself in there or do good work for them, I would still step back and just let them find someone else. Tommy Pike says, in the video game that you're working on, what do you do? Are you doing art and music, or do you also program the game? And if you do programming, what program is used? That's a good question, and it's in reference once again to the RPG I'm working on called Ortus. I'll make sure there's a link in the description so you can check out that if you're interested. The answer to that is a lot of things. These are the major roles I play in creating Ortus. I'm the creative director, I'm the map builder, and I rig all the characters and connect the dialogue. I've taken over writing. I rig flags, I handle publicity and sponsorship, character animation, effects animation, subcontracting. Pretty much anything that isn't the raw code of the game or creating the backgrounds and environments of the game is what I do. Solrak asks, what was your first narrative animation about? My first narrative animation was called Carnos, and it was released on Newgrounds almost exactly 10 years ago. I might very well make a remake of it, just as a bit of an ode in tribute to the 10 years ago Newgrounds that has brought me to where I am today. If you had to choose, drawing or music? It's a tough one, but at the end of the day, I'd definitely pick drawing because functionally it's much easier to make a career out of, and even emotionally and creatively you can connect to it in the same way you can connect to music. J Incorporated asks, any specific companies you would recommend for future animators for jobs? That's a tough one because most of the animation jobs are outsourced to Asian countries at the moment. So if you want to be an animator, I would recommend learning animation and creating your own original content and letting that speak for itself. Heaps of people have done that, like Gonzawesome, Oni, Harry Partridge, Adam Phillip. These people have made careers and names for themselves simply by doing something that they love, becoming good at it, and getting reputation. Voltex asks, do you hate sneezing? I don't hate it, but I think other people do because I spray and I sneeze very loud. It's really messy. Shani Benin asks, how's your day going and how are you? Good and good. Katie asks, do you do all your art in Flash or do you use other programs? I use Flash for my simple vector illustrations and for my animations, and for more detailed paintings I use Adobe Photoshop. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for the Q&A. I hope you enjoyed it. The next one will be several months away, but make sure if you want to participate it to join Facebook and Twitter. If you have any more questions, you could leave them as a comment in the comment section below and I might be able to get to them and answer them there. Otherwise, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later.